Evening all. You know that bit last video when I said I won't do any more gunning? I lied. Oh, how you doing, bro? Well, look, let's just do one more gunning. I promise, one more, then we're done. It's because I just enjoy it so much. It's nice to feel that you're being kind of carried around in a space chariot, and all I have to do is just literally point and they right, you die, you die, you die. I do like that. That makes me smile. And before you say it, no, this isn't a repeat of the video we've done maybe about a week earlier. It's just looking very similar. Same things. We have a dropship commanders, etc., etc. Anyway, you will see what I mean. Anyway, we're not going to talk about Eve this time. We're not going to talk about the negativities of the game. We're not going to talk about any of that. We're going to talk about some fun stuff. And I think this is where I kind of would like to open it up a little bit and say, look, one of the things you have to bear in mind about your hobbies and your personal time is that you have to decide what you spend your precious time upon. And I would like to kind of propose that one of the biggest things that I think is an annoying, do you know what, I have done this one before. As I look at it, I'm just now thinking to myself, hang on a minute. Have I done this one before? If I have, I do apologize. I am getting to the point where I do this so drunk. I am just not. Yeah. Don't drink, kids. It's really bad for you because it makes your mind turn to mush, as I think is happening here. I am watching this and I'm having massive deja vu. I don't know. Have I done this before? It looks like I have, but then again, no, maybe not. I don't know. Who knows? I missed the pad as well. I was drunk. As you can see, there's a format appearing here, which is basically me drinking and not knowing what the hell's going on. But there we go. To be honest, I think the reality is Dust is still a very good game, and I really do enjoy it. I think it's one of these things that I think you just have to kind of ask yourself, what do you want to get from a game? So let me tell you what I get from a game when I play it. I'm not like most people. I generally have a bit of a strange approach to games. I love stories. So to me, MMOs and sandboxes and all that are very interesting and they're very fun, don't get me wrong. But I like buying a game and playing it, not knowing really too much about it, and then enjoying the story, the journey. Because to me, it's like a film. I've always been a big film person. I've loved films all my life. And I think, there's certain films I could kind of say to you, look, these are films that changed my entire life. My entire outlook on life were changed by this and this. And it's the same with books. You pick up a book, you read a book, and it conveys you. It takes you from your mind, and it puts you into a story, and then you respond to that story. Now, games to me, so when I look for a game, generally I'm looking for a story. Now, I don't mind linear adventures, so things like that Sniper Elite game I played. I don't know if you saw those videos. To me, that was so much fun because it was a pretty shit story, admittedly, but it was an interesting conveyance through a series of maps. Now, they did it in a very simple way. It wasn't the best story at all, but it just had the attempt to do a story, which was nice. Dust has no story, so there's very little here that kind of engages you. And this is a shame because I think some MMOs do need that kind of ability to say, well, look, something's going on, something's happening here, etc., etc. And I just am surprised from time to time that the reality is that a lot of the time people don't necessarily enjoy a story. So I think there's a bit of a mix and match. But so certain games like Metro 2033, Half-Life 2, naturally, because that's a brilliant story. That's a really good A to B to C story. But it's a rail shooter in essence. That's all it is. Call of Duty 3, Modern Warfare 1. I thought that was excellent. That story and that was absolutely brilliant. That last bit where the mustache dude dies, I mean, that's just like, wow. And yes, don't worry, I know what actually happened, don't worry. But there's just loads of stuff like that. I just think, yeah, these are good stories, and you're invested. You actually invest, and you put your your feelings into the characters as well, which is good. So when Alex, for example, Alex Vance from Half-Life 2, you feel you kind of fancy her a bit. I certainly did. She was very, very sexy lady, and you kind of then get engaged with the characters, and that's when the game goes, thumbs up, tick, you've done it, you've understood what we're trying to do here. Now, sandboxes have a difficulty because it's very difficult to fall in love with a story. With Dust, for example, you can fall in love with the universe, though, because the universe and the IP behind it is so cleverly done. the reality is it's fascinating. It's actually really, really interesting in terms of the whole, I guess, essence of the entire universe. It's fascinating stuff, and I think that people really, really do respond to that, and I think that's awesome. I love the story and the IP of Eve. It was fantastic, and I still do. I still think it's very good, but I wish they'd done more with it. And I think this is where I think certain things like Elite would be, well, again, looks a very good, mechanically sound, strong game, but it needs more of a story. It needs the animosity between the Federation and the Empire hasn't begun yet, but in the original game, or rather the original Frontier game, the Empire and the Federation were at war, so there was this massive, mobilization of arms and missions to actually kind of screw the other party over. So hopefully they do that. But again, the Amar Empire and the Galactic Federation have such an identity and a feel, whereas the Empire and the Federation of Elite, it does not. They've not done that yet. There's no personality there, and this is what I'm really looking forward to from I think a number of games, because I really do want to see much more of a story. So there's a few games like this that I generally will scan Steam quite often, and I think State of Decay, I've done a few videos of it as well, that to me had a very good story, but it was very simple, but it was still not too bad at all, and it was a good example of survival horror. But I think there's more. Again, it was a sandbox, so there's kind of a less of a story, but I think certainly nowadays, people will look for the graphics, they'll look for the controls, they'll look for maybe the multiplayer, but they won't look for the story. Now, the story behind Titanfall, and this is why I think Titanfall was an abject failure in my mind, because Titanfall had such a good concept, but the story was a load of old bilge. There wasn't really a story. It was all just terrible. It was really, really bad stuff. So I think that became a bit of a kind of crying shame for me, because I would love to. I really wanted to play Titanfall as just such a big, powerful game, and in the end, the story was just not there, and it was boring. I didn't understand the difference between the breakaway factions, and I think that was just a terrible, terrible mistake. So there's more like this. I think there's more kind of good stories out there that really draw you in. I mean, the other one I had, and you'll laugh at this, but I don't care, bro, because I think it was good, was Space Marine. I thought the story behind Space Marine as a linear engaged shooter was fantastic, and I really enjoyed it. It had betrayal, it had intrigue, it had guile, it had all of these things that kind of keep you guessing. And when you have games that are well written like that, again, the good thing about it was the person that did the voice for it was bloody good. You could believe the dialogue, you could believe it was real. So they spent the money on the right areas, and I think that game is always going to be a classic in my mind. I do hope they do a sequel to it one day, but with THQ going bust, I wept a solitary tear for the fact that we probably will never see a sequel to that brilliant, brilliant game. But there we go. To be honest, I think there's so many good games out there for story, and I think don't disregard it. I know a lot of people want full control, so Minecraft is a great example. What a brilliant mechanical game. So the mechanics of it are fantastic. There's so much there to go and do, but there's no story to it, and I think for some people that's a problem. Obviously for others it's not. Now, I'm not saying Minecraft needs a story, but this is just then a game that entirely disregards the need for a story. It's user generated, really. Whereas I would say, sometimes you want to have something which is a bit more conveyed. So don't be negative towards conveyed games. So that's what I look for in a game. I think post in the comments, tell me what you would look for in a game. What would float your boat? Another example, Just Cause 2 Sandbox. The story was actually pretty silly, but it did have one, and it kind of gave you pause to do it, and I think that was because that was what I think made that game very good in my mind. So it's a tricky one. I don't know really. I mean, I think for when I look at games and what I'm trying to get from them and the interest I have in them, it is a difficult thing to kind of judge. But I think for myself, I do look to play everything. So I love sandbox. I love online games. I also love the solo adventure. For me, it's the controls as well. So we've started to have a look at some speed runs. You know, I'm terrible at it, but it's such a you know, a joyful thing to do. But I can't help but play the game sometimes, so I forget that I'm supposed to be running as fast as I can, and I end up just trying to fight dudes, which is a kind of stupid thing to do, I guess. But this has got to be some of the fun elements of gaming, is that you can pick and choose the adventure that you then go upon, and sometimes it's like a film that you then basically direct, or it could be something more, you know, open world, and you can go and explore. That feeling of exploring a planet, or that feeling of fighting the crime bosses of whatever is what makes gaming so good. But there we go. Post in the comments, tell me what floats your boat when it comes to gaming. Hope you enjoyed that. I'll see you next time.